Brandon Browner. His story is one of the most shocking falls from glory in NFL history. An undrafted cornerback who fought his way into the league, Browner first tried to break through with the Denver Broncos in 2005, but injuries cut that chance short. He rebuilt his career in the Canadian Football League, becoming a three-time CFL All-Star with the Calgary Stampeders. That persistence paid off when he returned to the NFL with the Seattle Seahawks in 2011. There, he became part of the feared Legion of Boom, earning a Pro Bowl selection in his first year and helping Seattle rise to dominance. In 2013, he was part of the Seahawks squad that won Super Bowl 48, and the following season, he captured another ring with the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 49. From the CFL grind to back-to-back Super Bowl champion, Browner had reached the pinnacle of the sport. But his triumphs on the field were overshadowed by chaos off it. After leaving the NFL in 2016, his personal troubles escalated. In July 2018, police said Browner broke into his ex-girlfriend's home in California, assaulted her, and threatened to kill her, all while her 2 children were inside. In December 2018, Browner pleaded no contest to attempted murder and burglary. A month later, he was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Mark Ingram Sr. was once a Super Bowl hero for the New York Giants. Drafted in the first round in 1987, he quickly became known as a dependable wide receiver with precise routes and clutch performances. His most unforgettable moment came in Super Bowl 25 against the Buffalo Bills. On third down, he broke 4 tackles on a single catch to secure a critical first down that helped the Giants win the championship. Over a 10-year career, Ingram played for the Giants, Dolphins, Packers, and Eagles, finishing with more than 3,900 receiving yards and 26 touchdowns. He was never the flashiest star, but quarterbacks trusted him when the game was on the line. After retirement, life took a darker turn. Ingram became involved in a massive bank fraud and money laundering scheme, stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars. In 2005, he pleaded guilty, and by 2008, he was sentenced to nearly 8 years in federal prison. But the downfall didn't stop there. Ordered to report to prison, he fled instead, becoming a fugitive until U.S. Marshals tracked him down. His capture meant he missed a milestone moment, his son, Mark Ingram II's debut at Alabama. Ingram Sr. served his sentence at federal facilities, including Ashland and Yazoo City, before being released in 2015. His legacy remains divided. On one hand, a Super Bowl champion remembered for grit and determination. On the other, a cautionary example of how choices off the field can erase the glory earned on it. Maurice Clarett was once the brightest star in college football. In 2002, as a true freshman at Ohio State, he rushed for over 1,200 yards and 18 touchdowns, carrying the Buckeyes to a national championship and earning instant fame. But the spotlight came with turmoil. By 2003, Maurice faced NCAA investigations over improper benefits and was suspended for the entire season. With his college career collapsing, he took the NFL to court, challenging its age rule in an attempt to enter the draft early. For a moment, it looked like he might change the league, but the courts shut him down. When the 2005 draft arrived, the Denver Broncos took a gamble in the 3rd round. Yet Maurice never played a single NFL snap. Out of shape, struggling with injuries, and battling personal issues, the dream was already slipping away. The real crash came in 2006. Maurice was arrested after a high-speed chase in Columbus, Ohio. Police found him wearing a bulletproof vest, carrying 4 loaded guns and a hatchet. He was convicted of aggravated robbery and weapons charges, receiving a 7.5-year prison sentence, with a chance of release after 3.5. Maurice served just under 4 years before earning early release in 2010. Instead of chasing football glory, he rebuilt his life. He became a speaker, an advocate for mental health, and a mentor to young athletes determined to share his story as a warning. By the way, I'm going to be posting a lot more interesting videos on the channel. I'll greatly appreciate it if you could show support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Thank you. Dwayne Goodrich was once a rising star in football. At the University of Tennessee, he became a household name after returning an interception 54 yards for a touchdown in the 1999 Fiesta Bowl, helping the Volunteers secure the 1998 national championship. His play made him a standout prospect, and in the 2000 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys selected him in the 2nd round. But just 3 years later, his life and career took a tragic turn. On January 14, 2003, while driving on Interstate 35 in Dallas, Goodrich struck 3 men who had stopped to pull another driver from a burning car. 2 of them, DeMont Matthews and Joseph Wood, were killed. Witnesses testified that Goodrich never stopped. Hours later, his damaged BMW was found hidden in a garage. Prosecutors argued he knew he hit people and chose to flee, while Goodrich claimed he thought he had struck debris on the road. A Dallas jury convicted him of criminally negligent homicide with a deadly weapon and failure to stop and render aid. He was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison, with additional time later added for leaving the scene. Goodrich served nearly 8 years before being released on parole in October 2011. By then, his NFL career was long gone, overshadowed by the deaths of 2 young men and the haunting label of a champion turned convict. Darren Sharper built a Hall of Fame resume: 14 NFL seasons with the Packers, Vikings, and Saints, 6 All-Pro selections, the 2009 Super Bowl championship with New Orleans. When he retired in 2011, he ranked 6th all-time in interceptions. NFL Network hired him as an analyst, articulate, charismatic, trusted, but away from the cameras, Sharper was hunting. The pattern was always the same. Women would meet Sharper at clubs or parties. Drinks would flow. Then, nothing. They'd wake up hours later, disoriented, violated, with no memory of what happened. One victim after another. Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Phoenix, New Orleans, 4 states. At least 9 victims, potentially 16. Sharper's weapon wasn't a gun. It was a pill, Zolpidem, Ambien. He'd spike their drinks, rendering them unconscious and defenseless. In February 2014, the walls close in. Arrests in multiple jurisdictions. The evidence was overwhelming. Audio recordings, text messages, testimonies from women whose lives he shattered. One victim told the court about waking up vomiting, her head pounding, and blood streaming from her nose. Another describes losing her career, her confidence, and contemplating suicide. They called him what he is: a sexual predator, a monster hiding behind a $1 million smile. In August 2016, in a federal court in New Orleans, Darren Sharper, in orange prison scrubs, received his sentence: 18 years in federal prison. 3 months later, a Los Angeles judge adds another 20-year sentence. Under the plea deal negotiated across 4 states, Sharper will serve approximately 18 to 20 years. Eligible for parole around 2034. The judge's words echo through the courtroom: horrible conduct, disgraceful abuse of trust. The man who intercepted 63 passes in his career couldn't intercept justice. 5 Pro Bowls, 1 Super Bowl ring, and a legacy destroyed by his own predatory evil. Kellen Winslow II carried legendary bloodlines. His father, Kellen Winslow, revolutionized the tight end position. Junior had the talent to match the name. Cleveland Browns, 1st round, in 2004. The hype was astronomical. His NFL career delivered flashes of brilliance: 469 receptions, 5,236 yards, 25 touchdowns across 10 seasons with 5 teams. But injuries plagued him, and something far darker lurked beneath the surface. In June 2018, in Encinitas, California, a woman experiencing homelessness reported a rape. Then another victim came forward, and another. The investigation uncovers a pattern of predatory violence spanning multiple victims, multiple years. In May 2019, Kellen Winslow II sat in a San Diego courtroom as prosecutors laid out the horrific evidence. 5 women, serial assaults. His victims included a 58-year-old homeless woman, a 59-year-old hitchhiker, and a 17-year-old girl. In June 2019, the jury delivered its verdict: guilty of forcible rape, guilty of rape of an unconscious person, guilty of assault with intent to commit rape, guilty of indecent exposure, guilty of lewd conduct in public. The son of a Hall of Famer, convicted as a sexual predator. Victims delivered emotional testimony. One described years of fear, constantly checking under beds and in closets. Another fled her home, unable to feel safe in her own city. In March 2021, sentencing day arrived. Judge Michael Pastor's words cut through the courtroom: sexual predator, horrible conduct. The sentence was passed down: 14 years in state prison. Winslow stood expressionless as his NFL career, his family legacy, his freedom, all vanished. His father built a Hall of Fame career. Kellen Winslow II built a criminal record. From the highest-paid tight end in the league, earning over $40 million, to an inmate in a California prison. The Winslow name, once synonymous with excellence, now synonymous with shame. Rae Carruth seemed destined for greatness. The Carolina Panthers' first-round pick in 1997, 27th overall. As a rookie, he caught 44 passes for 545 yards. All rookie team honors. a $3.7 million contract in his pocket. But when his girlfriend, Cherika Adams, became pregnant with his child, Carruth saw a problem, not a blessing. On November 16, 1999, Cherika Adams, 8 months pregnant, followed Carruth's car home from a movie theater. Suddenly, his vehicle stops, blocking her path. Another car pulls alongside. 4 gunshots shatter the night. Adams manages to call 911, gasping out the truth. Carruth orchestrated it all. She survived long enough to give investigators everything they needed. 4 weeks later, she died. But her son, delivered by emergency C-section, survived with severe brain damage and cerebral palsy. Carruth fled, but FBI agents found him 9 days later, hiding in the trunk of a car in Tennessee. Inside, they found $3,900 cash, bottles of his own urine, candy bars. In January 2001, the trial captivated the nation. The verdict: guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, guilty of shooting into an occupied dwelling, guilty of using an instrument to destroy an unborn child. The sentence came down hard: 18 to 24 years in prison. On October 22, 2018, after 18 years behind bars, Rae Carruth walked free. His son, Chancellor Lee Adams, lives with his grandmother. The boy Carruth tried to kill before he was even born, survived. Carruth sent letters from prison, claiming he wants a relationship with his son. Some wounds, though, can never heal. Michael Vick exploded onto the NFL scene as a #1 overall pick. Revolutionary, dynamic, unstoppable. He redefined what a quarterback can be. 3 Pro Bowls with the Falcons. He was the most electrifying quarterback of his generation, the first to rush for 1,000 yards in a season. Highlight reel plays every week. A 10-year, $130 million contract, the richest in NFL history. Nike, EA Sports, Coca-Cola. Endorsement deals worth millions more. Michael Vick wasn't just a football player. He was a brand. But in Surry County, Virginia, on Vick's rural property, horror was unfolding. In April 2007, a drug investigation led authorities to 1915 Moonlight Road. What they find turns stomachs nationwide. Bad News Kennels, a dog-fighting operation, rape stands, execution equipment, mass graves, dogs trained to fight to the death. Losers were electrocuted, drowned, hanged, or slammed to the ground. Vick wasn't just funding it. He was personally involved, executing underperforming dogs with his own hands, bankrolling gambling operations worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. In August 2007, the evidence was overwhelming. Vick pled guilty to conspiracy to travel in interstate commerce in aid of unlawful activities. Federal prosecutors recommend 12 to 18 months. But Judge Henry Hudson sees through the lies. Vick failed a polygraph, tested positive for marijuana while on bail, minimized his involvement. On December 10, 2007, the sentence was passed. 23 months in federal prison. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell suspended him indefinitely. The Falcons demanded repayment of $19.9 million in bonuses. Nike, Reebok, Upper Deck, Rawlings, every endorsement deal vanished overnight. Vick entered Leavenworth Federal Prison. He served 21 months, but unlike others on this list, Michael Vick's story includes redemption. Released from prison in July 2009. In August 2009, conditionally reinstatement to the NFL. The Philadelphia Eagles took a chance, and in 2010, he won the NFL Comeback Player of the Year. He had 4 more productive seasons. Vick became an advocate for animal rights, working with the Humane Society. His crime was barbaric, his punishment was severe, but Vick faced it, served his time, and genuinely changed. Proof that prison doesn't have to be the end of the story, though the dogs of Bad News Kennels never got their second chance. Thomas Henderson, also known as Hollywood, burst onto the NFL stage with charisma and talent few could match. Drafted by the Dallas Cowboys in 1975, he became a cornerstone of the famed Doomsday Defense, known for his speed and swagger. By 1977, he was a Super Bowl champion, helping Dallas claim victory in Super Bowl XII and earning a reputation as one of the most electrifying linebackers of his era. But behind the fame, Henderson's lifestyle was spiraling out of control. His flamboyant image lived up to the Hollywood nickname, and cocaine became his constant companion. Stories spread that he even used drugs on the sidelines, an allegation that defined his reckless reputation. By 1979, the Cowboys had enough, and they released their once shining star. The years that followed were marked by darker headlines. In 1983, Henderson was arrested and convicted in Texas on charges that included sexual assault and providing cocaine to minors. He was sentenced to 28 months in prison, a shocking downfall for a man who had once stood at football's pinnacle. After his release in 1986, Henderson slowly rebuilt his life. He embraced sobriety, became a motivational speaker, and in a twist of fate, won millions in the Texas lottery in 2000. His story is one of dramatic contrasts: Super Bowl glory on Sunday, prison walls by the mid-'80s, and eventual redemption. O.J. Simpson was untouchable. First player to rush for 2,000 yards in a season, five-time Pro Bowler, Hall of Fame running back, Hollywood star, American icon, 1995, acquitted of double murder in the most watched trial in history. But karma was patient. On September 13, 2007, in Palace Station Hotel, Las Vegas, room 1203, O.J. Simpson bursts through the door with a group of men. Sports memorabilia dealers Bruce Framong and Alfred Beardsley froze. Simpson screamed that the items were stolen, that they belonged to him. "Don't let nobody out of here." Guns are drawn. Property is seized. Simpson and his crew disappeared into the Vegas night. One problem, though: the entire confrontation was recorded. On October 3, 2008, exactly 13 years after his murder acquittal, inside a Las Vegas courtroom, the jury deliberates. Guilty on all 12 counts: armed robbery, kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon, conspiracy. Simpson, who'd walked free from murder charges, was handcuffed and taken into custody. On December 5, 2008, the sentencing came. O.J. Simpson was sentenced to 33 years in prison, eligible for parole in 9. Simpson became an inmate at Lovelock Correctional Center. The man who once ran through airports in Hurd's commercials now worked as a prison gym janitor. On July 20, 2017, the parole board granted release. On October 1, 2017, after 9 years behind bars, O.J. Simpson walked free at age 70. He'd beaten murder, but in trying to reclaim his stolen memorabilia, he lost nearly a decade of his life. The juice rushed for over 11,000 yards in his career, but he couldn't outrun justice forever. On April 10, 2024, O.J. Simpson died of cancer at 76. Free, but forever infamous. Lawrence Phillips could have been legendary. At Nebraska, he rushed for over 3,000 yards, led the Cornhuskers to back-to-back national championships in 1994 and 1995. The 1996 Fiesta Bowl, Orange Bowl champion. The St. Louis Rams made him the 6th overall pick, immediately trading away Jerome Bettis to make room. A 3-year, $5.6 million contract. But Phillips carried demons that football couldn't silence. In September 1995, the warning signs flashed red. Phillips dragged his ex-girlfriend down 3 flights of stairs by her hair, then smashed her head into a mailbox. Coach Tom Osborne suspended him for 6 games. He returned to play in the national championship. The NFL ignored the red flags. His career was turbulent. Rams, Dolphins, 49ers, out of the league by 1999. But the violence continued. In August 2005, Phillips drove his car into 3 teenagers after a pickup football game. Assault with a deadly weapon followed the charges. In October 2006, he was convicted on 7 counts and sentenced to 10 years in prison. While serving that sentence, another conviction: assaulting his girlfriend Amalia Weisler, choking her unconscious, false imprisonment, auto theft, criminal threats. In December 2009, an additional 21 years was added to his sentence, totaling 31 years in California State Prison. Phillips wouldn't be eligible for parole until age 57, but even prison couldn't contain his rage. On April 12, 2015, at Kern Valley State Prison, Phillips's cellmate Damian Soward was found dead, strangled. In September 2015, Phillips was charged with first-degree murder, lying in wait, a special circumstance that could bring the death penalty. But on January 13, 2016, guards found Phillips unresponsive in his cell. He was dead at 40. His death was ruled a suicide. Aaron Hernandez. In June 2010, the New England Patriots selected Aaron Hernandez in the 4th round of the NFL Draft. Alongside Rob Gronkowski, he forms one of the most dangerous tight end duos the league has ever seen. 2 Pro Bowl selections, a Super Bowl appearance, a $40 million contract extension. The kid from Bristol, Connecticut was living the American dream, but behind the fame and fortune, darkness was brewing. On June 17, 2013, the body of Odin Lloyd was discovered in an industrial park just miles from Hernandez's mansion. 6 gunshot wounds. Lloyd was dating the sister of Hernandez's fiancée. 9 days later, cameras capture the moment that shocked the sports world. Aaron Hernandez, in handcuffs, was led away by police. The Patriots released him within 90 minutes. His $40 million contract? Gone. April 15, 2015. The verdict? Guilty of first-degree murder. The sentence? Life in prison without parole. In Massachusetts, that's automatic. No appeals, no second chances. But the story doesn't end there. While serving his life sentence, Hernandez faces trial for a 2012 double homicide. On April 14, 2017, he was acquitted. 5 days later, prison guards found him hanging in his cell. He was declared dead at 28. Autopsy results revealed severe CTE, the most severe case ever seen in someone so young. 3 Super Bowl rings could have been his. Instead, a prison cell became his final home. From the heights of NFL glory to the depths of a maximum security prison, Aaron Hernandez's story remains one of the darkest chapters in sports history. Darryl Henley was once a promising NFL cornerback. Drafted by the Los Angeles Rams in 1989, he played 6 seasons in the league, appearing in 76 games and recording 12 interceptions, including 1 returned for a touchdown. On the field, he was known for his speed and ability to lock down receivers, a key part of the Rams' defense in the early 1990s. But away from the game, Henley's life took a darker path. In 1995, federal investigators uncovered his involvement in financing and protecting a cocaine trafficking ring. That year, he was convicted and sentenced to 20 years in prison. For most athletes, that would have marked the end of the story. But Henley's case grew even more shocking. From behind bars, he attempted to hire hitmen to kill U.S. District Judge Terry Hatter Jr., who presided over his trial, and a former Rams cheerleader who had testified against him. The plot failed, but the consequences were severe. In 1997, Henley was sentenced to an additional 21 years for the murder-for-hire scheme. What began as a promising NFL career ended with more than 4 decades in federal prison. Henry Ruggs III was supposed to be the future of the Las Vegas Raiders. A first-round pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, he came into the league with blazing speed, running a 4.27-second 40-yard dash, and quickly built a reputation as a deep threat who could flip a game in a single play. But in November 2021, that promise ended in tragedy. Ruggs was behind the wheel of his Corvette in Las Vegas, traveling at 156 miles per hour. His blood alcohol level was more than twice the legal limit. The crash that followed killed 23-year-old Tina Tintor and her dog, drawing national outrage and immediate action from the Raiders, who released him the same day. Just months earlier, Ruggs had been celebrated for highlight catches and his role in reviving a storied franchise. Instead, his name became tied to loss, regret, and a life cut short. In May 2023, Ruggs pleaded guilty to DUI resulting in death and misdemeanor vehicular manslaughter. That August, he was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in Nevada State Prison. At just 24 years old, the man who once represented the Raiders' future traded stadium lights for prison walls. Sam Hurd entered the NFL in 2006 as an undrafted free agent with the Dallas Cowboys. He wasn't a star, but he carved out a 6-year career as a reliable special teams player and backup receiver. Across his time in the league, he recorded 53 catches for 739 yards and 2 touchdowns. In 2011, he signed a 3-year, $5.15 million contract with the Chicago Bears. His biggest deal yet, a sign of stability and success. But while his football career was steady, federal investigators say his off-field life told a different story. Hurd was under surveillance for trying to traffic huge amounts of drugs. Authorities alleged he negotiated multi-kilogram deals, aiming to buy 5 to 10 kilograms of cocaine and 1,000 pounds of marijuana every week for distribution in Chicago and beyond. On December 14, 2011, just hours after a Bears practice, Hurd was arrested outside a Chicago steakhouse during a sting operation. The news stunned the league. To teammates, he was a respected player. To federal prosecutors, he was an aspiring kingpin. In 2013, Hurd pleaded guilty to conspiracy to possess and distribute cocaine and marijuana. A federal judge sentenced him to 15 years in prison. He served about 10 years before being released in early 2023, with the remainder of his sentence carried out in supervised release. Travis Henry entered the NFL in 2001 as a second-round pick for the Buffalo Bills. A powerful runner with surprising speed, he became the heart of Buffalo's offense. In 2002, he rushed for over 1,400 yards and 13 touchdowns, earning a Pro Bowl selection. For a brief time, Henry was one of the league's most reliable backs, but his career unraveled quickly. Injuries, competition, and off-field issues cut his playing days short. After leaving Buffalo, he spent time with the Titans and Broncos, but by 2007, his NFL journey was over. Off the field, Henry's personal life spiraled out of control. He fathered at least 11 children with 10 different women, leaving him overwhelmed by child support obligations. Struggling to keep up, he turned to the drug trade. In 2008, federal investigators linked Henry to a cocaine trafficking operation moving drugs across state lines. Prosecutors described him as the financier of the scheme. Facing overwhelming evidence, Henry pled guilty in 2009 to conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute cocaine. That July, a federal judge sentenced him to 3 years in prison, along with supervised release and mandatory drug treatment. Plaxico Burress was a towering wide receiver, standing 6 feet 5 inches with a gift for making clutch plays. Drafted in the first round of the 2000 NFL draft by the Pittsburgh Steelers, he quickly proved himself as a reliable deep threat. But it was with the New York Giants where he carved his legacy. In February 2008, Burress made history in Super Bowl 42. With just 35 seconds left, he caught a 13-yard touchdown from Eli Manning, handing the Giants a stunning victory over the undefeated New England Patriots. That single catch etched his name into NFL history. But less than a year later, his life collapsed. In November 2008, at a Manhattan nightclub, Burress tucked an unlicensed Glock 40 handgun into his waistband. The gun slipped, discharged, and a bullet tore through his thigh. No one else was injured, but the incident sparked a legal storm. New York law was strict. Carrying a loaded, unlicensed firearm meant mandatory prison time. After months of headlines and court appearances, Burress pleaded guilty to attempted criminal possession of a weapon. In September 2009, he was sentenced to 2 years in prison. He served 20 months before being released in June 2011. Though he returned briefly to the NFL with the Jets and later rejoined the Steelers, his prime had passed. From Super Bowl glory to a prison sentence, Plaxico Burress's story became one of the most unforgettable rises and falls in NFL history. Cecil Collins. He was called the Diesel. Collins was once a name that had Miami Dolphins fans buzzing. A powerful running back with rare speed, he seemed destined for stardom. At LSU, he flashed brilliance in 1997, rushing for nearly 600 yards in just 5 games before suspensions ended his season. Miami took a chance on him in 1999, and early on, it looked like a steal. In just 8 games, Collins rushed for 414 yards and 2 touchdowns, quickly becoming the Dolphins' leading rusher that season. But Collins carried a troubled past. He had already been dismissed from both LSU and McNeese State for off-field issues. And in December 1999, just months into his rookie year, his career came crashing down. Collins was arrested after breaking into the apartment of a woman he barely knew. Police said he climbed through her bedroom window in the middle of the night. The story shocked fans, teammates, and the league. In March 2001, Collins was convicted of burglary of an occupied dwelling and sentenced to 15 years in prison. His NFL career, just 8 games long, was over before it ever had a chance to grow. After more than a decade behind bars, Collins was released in May 2013. By then, football had moved on, leaving behind a story of wasted potential. Jamal Lewis was a force of nature on the football field. Drafted 5th overall by the Baltimore Ravens in 2000, he made an immediate impact, rushing for over 1,300 yards as a rookie and helping the Ravens capture Super Bowl 35. In 2003, Lewis reached legendary status. He ran for 2,066 yards, still the 3rd highest single-season total in NFL history, and shattered the single-game rushing record with 295 yards against the Cleveland Browns. By the time his career ended, he had surpassed 10,000 rushing yards, cementing his place among the league's greats. But while Lewis was building his name on Sundays, investigators were looking at his past. In 2004, he was indicted on federal charges for attempting to arrange a cocaine deal dating back to before his rookie season. The indictment stunned fans and cast a shadow over his career. In October 2004, Lewis pled guilty to using a cell phone to facilitate a drug transaction. The sentence, 4 months in federal prison, followed by 2 months in a halfway house and 500 hours of community service. He served his time in 2005 during the offseason, then returned to play, but the conviction never left his legacy. From Super Bowl champion to rushing record holder, and from a federal prison camp back to the gridiron, Jamal Lewis's story remains one of the most dramatic rises and falls in NFL history. Irving Fryar. He was the first overall pick in the 1984 NFL Draft, a wide receiver destined for greatness. Irving Fryar lived up to the hype, playing 17 seasons for the Patriots, Dolphins, Eagles, and Washington. He became a 5-time Pro Bowler, caught 851 passes for more than 12,700 yards, and scored 84 touchdowns. In Super Bowl 20, he recorded the Patriots' only touchdown in their loss to the Chicago Bears. His career made him one of the most durable receivers of his era. But long after the cheers faded, his life took a turn no one expected. In 2015, Fryar and his mother were convicted in New Jersey of running a mortgage fraud scheme. Prosecutors said they conspired to steal over $1 million by applying for multiple home equity loans on the same property, submitting false information to several banks. That August, a jury found him guilty of conspiracy and theft by deception, and in October, he was sentenced to 5 years in state prison, while his mother received probation. Yet Fryar served only about 8 months before being released into New Jersey's intensive supervision program. Jimmy Smith was one of the brightest stars to ever wear a Jacksonville Jaguars uniform. Undrafted in 1992, he fought his way onto the field after short stints with Dallas and Philadelphia. When he finally got his chance in Jacksonville, he exploded into one of the league's most dominant wide receivers. Across 11 seasons with the Jaguars, Smith hauled in over 860 receptions, nearly 12,300 yards, and 67 touchdowns. He was selected to 5 straight Pro Bowls, helped carry a young franchise to 2 AFC Championship appearances, and became the face of Jacksonville football. But as the glory mounted, so did the struggles off the field. In 2003, Smith was suspended by the NFL for violating the league's substance abuse policy. He returned and still produced at a high level, but the warning signs were there. After retiring in 2005, those problems only deepened. In April 2013, Smith was sentenced in Mississippi to 6 years in prison for possession of cocaine and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. A man who once electrified NFL crowds now found himself behind bars. After serving less than a year, he was released to house arrest in July 2013. In later years, Smith spoke openly about his battles with addiction, acknowledging the demons that followed him long after football. Despite the downfall, the Jaguars eventually recognized his impact on the field, inducting him into the team's Pride of the Jaguars in 2016. Kevin Allen was supposed to be the future of the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. Drafted 9th overall in the 1985 NFL Draft out of Indiana University, his size and strength made him one of the most promising prospects of his class. At 6'4" and over 300 pounds, he was built to dominate the trenches. But his rookie season told a different story. Allen struggled with conditioning and performance, giving up multiple sacks and quickly earning the label of a draft bust. The Eagles tried to salvage their investment, but his off-field life soon brought everything crashing down. In 1986, Allen was charged with the sexual assault of a woman at gunpoint in Margate, New Jersey. The case stunned fans and teammates alike. In 1987, he pled guilty to first-degree sexual assault and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. He served 33 months behind bars before being released, but his NFL career was effectively over. The league banned him for life, erasing the promise of a first-round pick who once stood on the doorstep of football greatness. Eric Naposki wasn't a household name in the NFL, but he was a tough linebacker who lived his dream. After college at the University of Connecticut, he made it onto the rosters of the New England Patriots and the Indianapolis Colts in the late 1980s. His pro career was brief, yet it gave him the taste of Sunday glory every football player chases. But when the stadium lights faded, his life shifted in a far more dangerous direction. By the early 90s, Naposki had moved to California, working as a nightclub security guard. There, he began an affair with Nanette Packard, a woman who was also dating Bill McLaughlin, a wealthy medical entrepreneur. On December 15, 1994, McLaughlin was shot 6 times in his Newport Beach home. Investigators immediately suspected greed and betrayal. McLaughlin had recently updated his will to include Packard, and prosecutors would later argue that Naposki was the gunman who carried out the killing for financial gain. For years, the case went cold, with little evidence tying anyone to the crime. But in 2009, Orange County prosecutors reopened the file, citing new leads and inconsistencies in Naposki's alibi. He insisted he was innocent, but a jury didn't agree. In 2011, nearly 17 years after the murder, Naposki was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Packard was also convicted and given 25 years to life. If you enjoyed this video, I'll be posting many more interesting videos on the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. Thank you very much.